Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such up. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Virtual World Sports Car Championship 2023 for the 60 minutes of Fuji. We're getting towards the end of another season of this championship. We've had some fantastic rounds so far, but we're coming towards the end of the season where there's a lot of 60-minute races coming up, and this is one of them. The last three races indeed have been 60 minutes long, and that trend continues here at Fuji. Next time out at Indianapolis we've also got 60 minutes as well, but we're here at Fuji on this occasion, and a fantastic entry ready and waiting to go for another great night of racing. Currently 35 entered from what I can see in the final moments of practice. So welcome along one and all, good to have you with us. My name's Ian O'Leary, I'm alongside James Parfitt for this round of the Virtual World Sports Car Championship, James, and we're looking forward to it again. Fuji presents its own challenges, not a circuit we see very often actually in sim racing, but we've got it here. We've got a pretty large grid as well, ready to enjoy what's been a great series so far, and we only have to look back to Road America last time to think back to what a great time we've had in this series so far, and some great races that we've had as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the VWSC series. You know, this one has been eventful. This is obviously the modern series. We do obviously the 98 sports cars as well. But I think the whole thing, you know, Road America was very interesting, I think, for some of the drivers. You know, Dan Kirby took the win in the Hypercars as well. You know, he's running away with it. We will have a look at the scores in a short while. But overall, it's been very interesting. As you say, Fuji's not a track that used very often. And I don't know. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm not a lover of it, but, you know, some people are.
Yeah, I don't mind. Certainly watching races around here is always entertaining. Driving it is somewhat debatable sometimes, depends how you're going. But yeah, it's not a bad circuit at all. This is the schedule, by the way. As I mentioned, a lot of 60-minute races at this end of the season, starting all the way back at Mosport in the middle of July. Now we're going to be in the end of September and still having those races. And then a couple of longer ones to end off at Road Atlanta and at Bahrain, where we'll end off our season. But what are we going to be looking like by the time we get to there? This is the Fuji Speedway that we're talking about. It's 16 turns over the course of the racetrack, and a circuit that's seen a lot of changes down the years in terms of its layout. In fact, the whole section from all the way from turn 8 and 9 all the way to turn 16 used to just be one long looping right-hander that used to go on for absolutely ages, and obviously that's not the case anymore, as you can clearly see. But I'd argue it's a bit more interesting, to be honest. Big chicane, big stop down there at Dunlop turn 10, and then it gets a little bit fiddly towards the end of the lap, and that's what people hate most about this circuit. I think the late apexes that you have to contend with at this circuit. These are the tyre compound choices they have over the course of the of the day. The Hypercars with just the soft and mediums, the GTs have the hard option as well, and the wet tyres which may be brought out today, we'll wait and see. But very rarely in the World Endurance Championship in real life do we not see the wet tyres brought out at some point over the course of the weekend. And that's our first challenge of the day for the Virtual World Sports Car Championship here this evening. Is it going to rain? Well, as I say, it does often at this time of year in this part of the world, so you never know. Fuel conservation going to be important as well. You remember back to the last few 60-minute races that we've had. It's been 2-stop races for the Hypercars and 1-stops for the GTs. It certainly was at Road America anyway. Is that going to be possible here? Are they going to have to make more? We'll wait and find out. And then traffic always is going to be a problem around this circuit here, James. It is wide, but there's plenty of corners and plenty of cars for the Hypercars to trip over.
Yeah, there definitely is. I think that's the thing when you've got so many cars on track at the moment. You know, we've just finished practice here before we go into qualifying. So it's always going to be traffic management. Always, always, always on these type of events, especially when you've got such faster cars in the Hypercars and the GTs. So there's a good mix, a nice little split. We've got 16 GT cars, 19 Hypercars. So it's going to be very interesting on how this is managed. But you never say never, and you never know what's going to happen. Why these drivers do their outlaps, we'll have a quick look at the standings.
Yes, the session has just gone green now, so we're not going to miss anything by having a look at these. This is the GT3 AM standings so far, with Yuji Mazur still leading here with those 3 wins. Stephen Miller and Peter Meyer by far the closest there, but they're both over 50 points back at this stage. Micah Mapus are in 4th and 5th, ahead of Stuart Barge. Then Adam Gray in the first of the BMWs. Filippo Marazzel. I struggled with this last time, didn't I? Marazzi, sorry, in 8th place. Jocelyn Petrie and Ed Jones round out the top 10 in GT3 AM. And you can see the teams on the right-hand side, by the way. Trash Panda Racing leading pretty comfortably there. In GT3, we've got Jamie Zalecki leading, but this is by far the closest and most interesting championship, by the way. Becky Ely with that win at Road America, very narrow win, let's add, brings her to just 7 points behind Zalecki. JT Tami only a further point back, and Vasilis Katerinakis is only 3 points further back, with Brandon Gant rounding out the top 5, all covered by 14 points. It's going to be an absolutely thoroughly entertaining end to the season in GT3. Johnny Gutierrez is in 6th, by the way, and the rest of them are not really in contention, but I'll go through the rest of the top 10. John Mayer, Vinicius Gonçalves, Sashin Sobers and Luciano Izzazo are the top 10 there. In Hypercar AM, it's still relatively close here. Wayne Hutchinson's lead was cut into last time out by Philippe Emric and Guillaume Benck, who are just over 30, or who is just over 30 points back. 31 points separate the three of them. Barry DeMarzo is in 4th, and then you have to go a long way back to William Miller to round out the top 5. And in the teams, by the way, Stuart House Racing and HPD are very close, only separated by 10 points in the standings, you can see on the right-hand side, so that's worth keeping an eye on as well throughout the remaining rounds. And in Hypercar itself, Daniel Kirby's win at Road America extended his championship lead to 60 points over Tom Lane. John Ewan is in 3rd ahead of Timon Sulik, then it's Magnus Dahlgren in 5th. Mia Rose is back in 6th despite those 2 wins coming early on in the season. She slipped away a little bit now, unfortunately. Ross Smith 7th ahead of Bradley Sellers. Then Wouter De Bruyne and Brian Hall round out the top 10. CMS Pro are comfortably leading the team's standings. They are made up of Kirby and Ewan, you can see in those 2 Peugeots. And so they're quite a long way ahead of the rest. As you can see on your screen, we're into qualifying now. 36 is the final entry, but thankfully for these drivers, we split up GT3 and Hypercar qualifying, allowing these drivers hopefully a little bit more space to contend with over the course of this qualifying session, because it's going to be very busy in the race.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think these guys have got to be aware of that situation. You know, they've got to be aware of the fact that it is going to be busy. They've got to monitor what they're doing. The GT3's got to manage the Hypercars coming through. If you can't let them through anywhere on track, then try and do your best to, let them through somewhere, preferably where you're not going to lose the most amount of time. For the GTs, That's going to be important. Hypercars, don't rush the overtakes, don't rush the moves. If you're trying to do it down into turn 10, which is the right-hander before we go through the chicane, could end up not working out so well for you. So they've got to be sensible. They've got to be on point for where they've got to go here, because if they're not, they're going to definitely struggle. You can see Becky Ely steering, going around turn 1 there. It was arms folded, arms crossed to try and get it round. And this is going to be the interesting thing. You've got certain spaces here, Ewan, that you can make an overtake as a hypercar, but you've got to do it sensibly. And that's one thing that people need to learn. Do it sensibly. Welcome in, Mr. Reese, and welcome in, Coco. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us here as well. But yeah, it's going to be tough for all of these drivers really to get this track dialed in, get to know where you can overtake, get to know where you definitely should not be overtaking.
Yeah, it's always a problem around this circuit, but as I mentioned earlier, the width of this circuit should help them out just a little bit. By the way, it's not a hugely long lap around here. As you can see, they were down in the 136s for the best of the GT3 so far. It's Becky Ely who's gone quickest so far, by the way. But it will be 19 hypercars out on the circuit to only 17 GT3s, and really not very many of those are in the top class of GT3s. A lot of them in the GT3 AMS, where we have more than 10 cars today. In GT3 itself, we have not got many at all, only 5 currently entered. Don't really know the reason for that, but Jamie Zalecki is here, Becky Ely is here as well as Brandon Gant as well, but JT Tami and Vasilis Kataranakis are both missing as championship contenders in GT3.
Yeah, 5 cars for the GT3 pros. Well, it's going to be interesting for them, to be fair. They've got to be able to work out where they can and cannot fight. The problem is the likes of Stuart Barge isn't too far off the play pace for the AMS, Matt Boost for the AMS, Brandon Alan Lefrancois also for the AMS as well. So the AMS are up there and are not too far away from the pros, but then they're teetering on the edge, I think, Ewan. That's the thing. They've got to be able to try and deal with this one. You know, the AMS don't really want to be fighting the pros, because at the end of the day, completely different class. You know, you've got to think that there's no need for them to be in there at the end of the day. Don't fight somebody who you know is quicker, but it only takes one mistake from a pro could drop them down amongst the AMS, and that's gonna be the issue, I think. Johnny Gutierrez is not too far away from Stuart Barge here, so Stuart Barge on a 138.5, Gutierrez on a 138.4. So it's going to be an interesting battle all the way through the field, I think. I think we're in for some exciting action, and I think we could see it. It's going to be interesting when the hypercars get into quali. You know, as you say, there's like 19, I believe. So, you know, they've got to manage where they're going to go out. They've got to manage the traffic. They have got 10 minutes apiece. So let's see how it goes. Mr. Reese, seems like no rain today. Well, I wouldn't like to rely on that one. I'm not going to lie, because Britain was told in 1986 we weren't going to have a hurricane, and look how that turned out. So, you know, never trust the weatherman.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, right. I didn't know that was even possible, to be honest. But,
well, Michael Fish come on the TV the night before, right, and said we're expecting high winds. We're not going to get a hurricane. Okay? That's what he said. Not a hurricane, just high winds, it'll be fine. Following morning, a hurricane, trees down all over the place. I got a day off school because my mum didn't want me walking out in the high winds just in case a tree fell on my head. And he looked a complete and utter Charlie, to be honest. So from his point of view, yeah, didn't look too well. So I mean, there we go.
I mean, I know that we're going to have a lot of Americans listening here who maybe even have experienced a hurricane, and I could sound like a complete baboon in a minute, but what's the difference really between very high winds and hurricanes? At what point does it become a hurricane? Well, when it's very high winds?
That's the thing, right? We had like 86 mile an hour winds. I think anything probably over 65 to 70, you know, is pretty hurricane weather. You know what I mean? I think that's pretty much what it should do, and I think that's probably where the limit is on that one. I think it's, you know, 65, 70. So let's see. I don't know. I'm going to Google that now. You carry on talking. I'll have a Google. I'll let you know.
Okay, you do that then. I was typing, but yeah, you do it. So we can find out. But anyway, I'll. Well, these are the kind of things that happen in these races. We get completely sidetracked, and it's happened already. Becky Ely is currently leading, by the way. We've only got a minute and a half remaining of GT3 qualifying here, by the way. So not long to go at all. And Becky Ely hasn't got a huge advantage over Jamie Zalecki just for the moment, but it might well be enough now. Just under a second is the advantage. It's an Acura or Honda, depending on where you are. We'll go with Acura NSX GT3 1-2 at the moment. Then Johnny Gutierrez in the Mercedes is in third, and then the first of the AMs, Stuart Barge, is currently leading there in fourth overall. And another one of the Acuras, actually Matt Buse, very close behind though in the Lamborghini, just behind that. The GT3 AM Championship leader, Yuji Mazur, is a little bit further down, actually not even inside the top 10 overall. It's down in 11th at the moment. That's 6th in GT3 AM, by the way. So bit of work to do in the race for Yuji Mazur. However, it's a decent lead in the championship that he has at the moment. By the way, 56 points he has over the rest, and only 25 can be scored over the course of today's race, so he won't be too concerned about that. But it's not a great qualifying session for him. Just around 20 seconds remaining, and I'm wondering whether we're going to see a change in GT3 AM. I don't think we are, because Stuart Barge and Matt Booth both seem to be in the pit lane.
Yeah, they definitely are at the moment. Going back to our win thing, and Mr. Reese has said it there, Wiki says it needs to exceed 118 kilometres per hour, right? So apparently hurricanes are classed in 4 categories. A category 1 is 74 to 95 miles per hour for us English people who understand miles per hour. Category 2 is 96 to 110 miles per hour. And category 3, which is a major, is 111 to 129. And then a category 4, which is blow your house off, is 130 to 156. So there we go.
Well, yeah, there we go. We've had an education. Yeah, it's. So I never do that. To be honest, that's something about England I never know. But
yeah,
mainly because I wasn't alive.
I'm sure it was 1986. I'm just googling it now, to be honest. It was a Category 1 hurricane, so we had winds of 74 to 95 mile an hour. And it was called Hurricane Charlie, I believe. So
okay,
I think it was.
That's something I definitely didn't know. As the Hypercars, by the way, just make their way out onto the circuit, we're pretty much done and complete with GT3 qualifying. Late improvements from Brandon Gant and Matthew Marlowe have actually put them ahead of the Anfield, so we're not going to have a complete scramble at the start of the race. It's going to be fairly orderly, which is good. But other than that, no changes really. Becky Ely remains on pole ahead of Jamie Zalecki and Johnny Gutierrez in Pro, and Stuart Barge leads the two Buses in second and third in AM, so no big changes there. And by the way, I'm sure I mention this every time, but Gilles Villeneuve qualified 16th. Don't know what that's about. I don't think it's the Gilles Villeneuve, but
no.
Anyway.
Well, it would be a large job considering he's in the ground.
Not alive.
Yeah, I mean.
But yes, do I say that every time I'm on here?
Pretty much. I think it's one of the conversations that take place, yes.
I apologise. I'm just surprised every time. So anyway, he's down there in 16th as well at the moment. But the Hypercars are out on their way now. A few more of these, as I mentioned earlier on, only 17 GT3s, but 19 Hypercars, and we're about to have the first lap times come in. But it's not a very long session, just under 8 minutes remaining already, and we've still not got any representative times on the board.
Yeah, I think we're on the fast times now. Kirby's got purple in sector 1 at the moment, and I'm looking probably for his sector 2 very, very shortly. He's purple again, so expect a nice little fast lap. Mr. Reese has said though for us in YouTube, just in case it happens here in Fuji, in Asia they're called typhoons. So there you go. And apparently all around India they are called cyclones. So Mr. Reese has clearly been on Google and Wiki trying to figure out the terminology. So well done.
This conversation all stems from the fact that we were expecting not to get rain. But anyway, if it happens now, then we'll be really in trouble. Anyway, Daniel Kirby is going to look to set the benchmark here, and it's a very fast lap around here, isn't it? 124.6 for Kirby in the championship leading Peugeot 9X8. He's currently holding, as we saw earlier on, 60 points over Tom Lane, who will set a lap time very soon as well, you would imagine. You'd hope so. Anyway, Brian Hall goes into second just for the moment. Still 2.5 seconds away, though. That seems to be a very good time from Kirby. John Ewan now goes into second. That's a bit more like it. Still 2.1 away, though. The gap at the front of the field is very, very big from Daniel Kirby to the rest.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge, to be honest. And Michael Locke here, of course, who won the Hypercar AMS last time out in Road America, is sitting 4th overall. So a great job from him. Brian Hall in 5th, Tom Lane and Jerry Chen in 6th, 7th and 8th, respectively. No time on the board for this man as of yet, Magnus Dahlgren. I think we should start seeing a time coming over very, very shortly from him. So let's see what happens as Dahlgren goes over the line and whether or not he is going to be putting a time on the board. And for Magnus Dahlgren, he goes into 4th and then jumps back in to the pit lane. So there you go. Very interesting at the moment.
So Daniel Kirby, the only one really to stay out for 2 laps in a row by the looks of things. He currently leads Wouter de Bruin in second, then Timon Suvik, then Magnus Dahlgren and John Uyen. From 2nd to 6th, there's not even 2 tenths separating those 5 drivers, by the way. It just puts into perspective what a lap time that is from Daniel Kirby, and as I said at the time, I don't know if that's going to be beaten at all by anybody. 1:24.6 looks to be the pole position time. Maybe it'll even be lower than that, but you're going to get some more times in. Michael Locke goes over the line in the first of the Hypercar AM entries and goes only 1.5 seconds away. So we've got Pro Car leading in first and then an AM car leading its class in second place, which is a rarity. And the next AM all the way down in 10th.
Yeah, it's weird because Louis Heskev can't get near Michael Locke. Michael Locke won last time out, and that was a big hold up for Dahlgren there as well. He's not going to be overly happy as he's on his outlap once more. Brian Hall, do you know the thing is, right, with this man in this Peugeot 9X8, not only does the car look amazing, I love this car, I think it's absolutely incredible, but at the hands of Daniel Kirby, it just seems untouchable. People just can't get near him, and that's the thing with that car and Dan Kirby. He has got it hooked up so well. The car might as well be on rails because that's how he drives it. You know what I mean? Good evening, Phil, as well. Thank you so much for joining myself and Ewan O'Leary here as well for this one. But that Peugeot 9X8 at the hands of Dan Kirby, incredible ability has Dan Kirby got in that car, and I'm worried here, Ewan, if he's obviously going to be at the front. We know there's single file rolling starts. If he goes, he's gone. Nobody can touch him unless he has a major drama.
Yeah, that's the worry for everybody else, that if he does indeed just give it a go, then yeah, it won't be seen again. Obviously there's a lot of challenges, potential challenges over the course of the day that could trip him up, including possible weather, but we'll have to wait and see. We're not expecting it to be it's certainly not for certain anyway, the weather, as it sometimes is at this circuit. Remember, in years gone past, in real life, races being cancelled in the World Endurance Championship, or shortened in the World Endurance Championship for weather and things like that, but actually, there has been a bit of rain this weekend already in the running that's been going on there, but it doesn't look like we're going to get the same here. In Hypercar, seems to be that we've got less AMs than pros, in sort of an opposite effect to what we've had in GT3 earlier on. Just the 7 AMs here today, whereas there are 12 pros as far as I can see here, so kind of got the opposite effect going on, and right now Michael Locke still leads the way in the Hypercar AM category by 1.2 seconds, which is not that big of a gap in reality. However, there are 7 cars between them, and that's going to really help Locke off of the start when he has that kind of advantage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The more cars Locke can put between himself and anybody else, he will be relishing this, right? He's clearly gone out to be faster than Tom Lane, Wouter de Bruin, Timon Suvik, Magnus Dahlgren, John Uyan and Jerry Chen, and Brian Hall. He's clearly gone out and done some practice at this circuit. He is flying. And the thing is as well, he's got 4 tenths between the fastest pro behind him, which at the moment is actually Tom Lane, I believe, here as well. So, you know, he's going to be able to maintain this if he could just stay in front of these cars. This race, with the mixture we've got at the moment of pro and AMS, and the AMS above the pros and Lock above half of the pros, this could go off big style, and it's going to be how they're going to manage all of this. I am a little bit worried because of the way that they're maintaining the traffic running here as well. But I'm also a little bit excited to see what Michael Lock can do here, or Michael Lock can do, because sitting in second place, mixing it up with the likes of Timon Suvic and others, as we can see there on the side of the circuit. That's Jason Whitehead, unfortunately gone off there. But yeah, I think this could be an epic battle.
Well, let's see how we get on in the hour-long race that we have coming up very, very shortly. Timon Suvic makes his way towards the line now. Doesn't need a big improvement to jump up inside the top 3 here. Has he got it? Doesn't look like it. Stays 5th for the moment in the Acura, in this little Red Bull livery. It looks like he's going on at the moment. Looking pretty nice out there on the circuit. We've got all the Hypercars over the line now, by the way. All of them have set times, which is a good thing. At least we've got that, because that wasn't the case a couple of moments ago. Certainly, we're in the final seconds of qualifying now, though, and so the times are pretty settled. It does seem that the first lap times that most of these drivers set have been the fastest ones, really. Haven't seen too many improvements since then. Tom Lane and Magnus Dahlgren have gone a bit quicker, but they've all been eclipsed now by John Uyen, who just goes up into second place right at the very end of the session.
Yeah, they've done a stellar job. It doesn't seem like they've got much tyre life. Normally tyres get better, and we've seen that in multiple series. You know, the radicals that I race in, 2 laps in and you do your fastest lap. It seems like here, though, you do a 1 lap stint and you're gone. You know what I mean? You're good to go, and that's your fastest time. And I think that's what's happened here at the moment. You know, we're just waiting for the likes of Suvic, Chen. I believe Daniel Kirby's gone into the pits. Tom Lane has finished as well. Wouter de Bruin is coming round the final stages of the lap here. But for these guys, clearly, they know what they're doing at the end of the day. And if tyre life is better over 1 lap, then that's what they've gone and done. But do you really get to improve? We say the more practice you have, the more times it gets better. But does it? I don't know.
Well, that's, yeah, I guess people debate that for a long time because yes, I mean, some people like a long time to get warmed up for this kind of thing, but others can just produce in 1 lap and it's all fine. So I don't know. It really depends. As Gilles Lalonde makes his way towards the pit lane, I think that's going to be it for everyone in terms of lap times now. Can barely see anybody else actually out on the circuit for now. Lalonde is certainly one of them. Philippe Enrique and Benjamin Portes were out there for quite a while after the session as well, but it's all complete now, and we will be ready to get underway this hour-long race very shortly. But as I mentioned, we're getting towards the end of this season now. We've got another hour-long race at Indianapolis coming up in a few weeks' time, in 2 weeks' time actually, 2 weeks to the day. You can catch it in the same place. You're watching us right now, so make sure you join us for that. And then the 2 final rounds, the 100 minutes of Road Atlanta and 80 minutes at Bahrain as well. So they'll have a little bit more points on offer for the slightly longer race. And that will add to the 50 points that we got for the 2 hour-long races still remaining in this one as well. That gives us a total of still 126 points for any single driver to get over the course of these last races. And that still leaves the championships realistically wide open. But obviously we know that there are some very dominant forces in most of these championships. The GT3 Pro Battle is the one that we're very much looking forward to because it is still so close after so many rounds.
Yeah, I think with the way the scoring system is and with the way the scoring system works here, you know, as you say, there's still quite a lot of points up for grabs. And I think that's the thing with the situation as well. You know, Eugene Mazur, I don't know, he's out in front by 56 points in the LMGT3 AMS, right? And I've got a funny feeling, you know, he's pretty much going to wrap that one up. I can't actually see Stephen Miller. Oh, yeah, Stephen Miller is in the session as well, but he's a long way back. So, but then again, Eugene Missouri isn't too high up the grid. So I think that could be an interesting one to see how that materialises. The LMGT3s is really close. Jaime Zalecki 132, Becky Ely 125, and JT Tammy on 124, with Vasilis Kataranakis on 121 and Brandon Gant on 118. So really, in hindsight, you know, and they're probably the right 5 at the top that's probably got that opportunity to take the championship. Hypercar AMS, again, Wayne Hutchinson's out in front by, what is he at the moment, 24 points. So again, it's looking like if Wayne Hutchinson can just have a good race, he should be able to wrap that one up. Dan Kirby, I think that's done. I've got to be honest. I think Kirby is pretty much going to wrap up the Hypercars. I wouldn't be surprised if people can't get near him after this race. The pace that he's showing today is just extraordinary. And I think, to be honest, he will go on and take that championship fairly comfortably.
Yeah, I think so. But you do just never know. I mean, over the course of the last 5 rounds, Daniel Kirby has won 4 times now, but well, actually, I'll go even a little bit further back than that, and I know this is now starting to include most of the season, and so not much of a statistic, is it really? But in the last 7 rounds, he has won 4 times. On the other occasions, in the other 3 rounds, he's picked up a total in those 3 rounds of just 3 points, which is really not very many. He'll be losing out a lot if that continues on. So it does show that over the course of this season, certainly the last rounds, he's been very much hit or miss, either winning by a very long way or clearly in the wall at some point along the way, getting damage, having to repair it, and coming back from these kind of problems, and then picking up points here or there. So, you know, it does show that things can go wrong for him, for Daniel Kirby, and it shows that, you know, well, that qualifying performance suggests that this race is almost over before it starts. It very much isn't, because there's still plenty of chance for things to go wrong, as we've seen on multiple occasions in this season, even for the likes of Daniel Kirby, who has arguably been the most dominant driver of this season.
Yeah, he is... I don't know, to be honest. I think the beginning of the season with Kirby as well, you know, there's obviously been some form of transformation in his mentality, right? As you say, you know, 4 wins in a row as such here. And at the end of the day, for him to go away, realise what's going on, and then come back and be absolutely dominating. You know, we're just watching the drivers sort out where they are in the pit boxes at the moment as well. We have seen some double up. But, you know, for him to be out and completely dominating, I still can't see past him. But it also shows as well what type of driver he is, because of the fact, obviously, he had such a poor start, you know, and then to come back and still take the championship lead. It just shows that if you get your head down, make some changes within yourself, get on with it, and that's what he's done. And Dan Kirby, I think, to be honest, if he gets out in front today and he runs away with it, I don't think we're going to see him again. How's Becky doing, says Phil. Becky is the leader of the GT3 Pros. She's qualified on pole. We're just into warm-up at the moment, and then we'll be able to bring you up the grid here as well. 5.5 minutes left of the warm-up, and then we will bring you up the grid and show you where everybody is as they all sort out what pit boxes they're in.
Yes, I was going to say, I can't say there's a lot of warming up going on at the moment, really, but everyone's figuring out where on earth to pit, and that's always a bit of a problem. We were speaking about this last time we were doing one of these broadcasts, that you do have to figure out who you're sharing with and try and coordinate with them. As we were talking about last time, you hope that you're not sharing with someone in your class, and you hope that if you're in a hypercar, you're with a GT3 and vice versa, because we know that the pit stop phases will be different for them. The fuel consumption rate is sped up by 2 times in this series for these hour-long races, just leaving the drivers a little bit more need to pit over the course of the races. So hypercars have to come in twice, and GT3s normally have to come in once as well, whereas they would probably have to do 1 less than that for both categories if it was just left how it is normally. So you do hope that you're not sharing with someone in your class, because you could end up pitting on the same lap, and then it's really awkward. It's not like our racing here at our Factor 2, where you can just drive through people in the pit lane like it's not real life. You will hit people in the pit lane, and it has happened in the past, and it doesn't matter how slow you're going, your front wing and whatever might be liable to just fall off sometimes in a somewhat comical manner, but you've got to be very careful of that, because it could get very, very busy. Admittedly, at Road America last time, it didn't get too bad, but you just never know what it's going to be like this time around.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and by the looks of it, we got quite a few people sharing. So, yeah, this could be an exciting one as they all line up and try and figure out where they all are and who they're with and what the situation is. Yeah, it's all getting a little bit scrappy. Ria, welcome in as well. She's been adulting today and has asked, why is it so hard? She said, I need a day just playing video games and listen to D&D. Dungeons and Dragons, or am I not thinking that D&D means that?
I've got no idea. Your guess is as good as mine there. To be fair, I hadn't even prepared a guess, so your guess is better than mine, in fact. Turning circle, by the way, is a bit of a problem, clearly, for some of these drivers. I've seen multiple people. Oh, there's another one in the background. There we go. Peugeot in the wall, in the pit wall, that is. The Hypercars, especially finding it difficult, but not limited to Hypercars having problems. But you can just see the problems that they do have with this pit lane. Thankfully, they're not being disqualified for reversing down the pit lane like this, which is liable to happen in some games. But get away with it on here.
You naughty boy, Mr. O'Leary.
What?
You called it a game.
Well, it is really, isn't it?
You called a simulator a game. All emails to you and O'Leary at ICalledItAGame.com, and you can send all emails to him. JPB takes no, what's the word I'm looking for? No responsibility for commentators' comments. So, yeah, all emails to Mr. O'Leary for calling it a game. So there we go.
Well, it is.
It
kind of is. But anyway, yes, it's.
I agree with you.
It also it doesn't really matter. But anyway,
no, that's the thing. I did that once in a broadcast. I called it a game, and YouTube went off big style at me. It's not a game. It's a simulator. I was like, does it really matter? You know what I mean? But yeah, apparently so. So, don't call it a game. Otherwise, it's, it will drive people crazy. But technically, it is. You've got to fire up the PC to play it. So, I agree with you. 90ED6LSV said they had a typhoon on Thursday. It was crazy. Now, typhoons, as we know, come from Asia, as we found out earlier on. So, I'm guessing you're in Asia somewhere. And they've got some dry weather.
I think they are talking about the Thursday night race of this series, where it was very wet. But you never know.
Oh yes, because God blimey, yeah, my brain forgot there. Yeah, right. There we go. Oh well.
Yes, because I mentioned how very pleased that it's dry today, and it does look like with every comment that we get, we're becoming more sure, or I'm becoming more sure, that it is indeed going to stay dry for the duration of today's race. But you never know.
No.
Although it feels like most people do. For this occasion, another Porsche pulls its way into the pit box just as a bit of practice. That's almost all of the entry on your screen right there, by the way. For this race, so take a look and whatever, because that's probably the last time we're going to see them all together for the course of this race. It is going to be a single file start, as we always get, and we'll get that start underway very soon now that warm-up is complete. But as I mentioned earlier on, there's not a whole lot of warming up that actually goes on in this warm-up. No. It's just case of finding your pit box. And by the way, if you're wondering why they can't do that earlier, it's because the pit boxes are all set after qualifying, which makes it pretty difficult to do when it's not been set yet. Session suggested that we are in another warm-up, which I don't reckon is going to be the case. But
no,
you never know.
Not been. Hold on, I'm just keeping an eye out and seeing what's happening. Hold on. Nobody's told me anything here either. So I'm hoping we're not going to have another 10 minutes. But I'm also afraid that it looks like a lot of cars are out on grid. So it could be possible that we have...
Oh dear. Oh dear, that was awkward.
Yeah. Be a little bit careful there, boys.
Yes, another bit of turning circle problem for one of the McLarens making its way out onto the circuit once again. Yeah, not sure why we're doing warm-up again, to be honest with you.
No. I wonder if it's because it took so long to get their pit boxes and nobody really went out and warmed up. So, there we go. But,
well,
you know, who knows?
Qualifying ended a minute ago, so yeah, I'm not
sure.
Not really sure, but yeah, looks like we will have to wait a little bit longer for this race to commence. Wonder if we're waiting for someone to rejoin. Are we missing someone? We are. We have only got 35 now compared to the 36 we had earlier, so we could be missing someone before we advance to the actual race. Maybe we're waiting for them to rejoin again. Guillaume Benck is back again. I think he disconnected earlier and is back again now. Yes, had to restart the walk for a driver to rejoin. There we are. My guess for once was pretty accurate.
Well
Don't ask me to tell you who it was though, because I simply won't be able to find out. There's 19 hypercars to pick through, and I can't spot the missing one. But yeah, certainly none of the guys who'll be on the front few rows who have all very much remained in the session and remain absolutely fine in this warm-up.
Yeah. I can't figure out who it is either, to be honest, as well. But they are, yeah, a few more minutes waiting for a driver to come back in. That's good. Carl's boys, hand smiley blue waving at me. Hi, thank you so much. Mr. Reese said it did look like a snowstorm on Thursday, so I'm guessing it must have been completely torrential on that one. And Ria says, actually, the interesting thing, there's a campaign that's recorded that's a bunch of internet comedians playing D&D, and it's incredible. Well, you have to send me the link on that one because I always need something to listen to while I'm working. So yeah, that'd be ideal. Send it to me and I can sit here and listen to it during the day. That'd be cool. I've never played D&D, to be honest. I've watched it be played a couple of times through various videos, and obviously, you know, Big Bang Theory played D&D and Stranger Things played D&D and stuff like that. Never actually played D&D. So have you played Dungeons and Dragons before?
No, certainly not.
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry. Is that a little bit below you, Mr. O'Leary?
Oh no, I don't mean. No,
yeah, that's what you. That's what it sounded like. Everyone, you heard it here first.
I heard it for the first. Well, I heard of it for the first time when you said it about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you probably
so that's one reason.
Yeah,
that's one reason. And you were correct, by the way, which you haven't mentioned yet. I thought you were going to take the credit there, but you,
well, you
just
know,
let that one lie.
Yeah, I let it lie because I didn't want to rub it in too much, and I also didn't want to put out the fact that I might have been old and know what D&D is. So. As well, so I was a little bit worried that I would make myself old, and then I thought, well, you are right, but just leave it as it is now. So I've left it, but it's supposed to be quite a good game to play.
I've given you the opportunity to take credit.
Thank you.
So
I am going to take credit. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I am going to be right, and at the end of the day, I know something that you don't know.
Yes,
but you know there is quite an age gap between us, so you know at the end of the day I should hopefully I know more. Well, not always, but yeah, you should technically.
You'd hope so, to be honest. Yeah. By the way, I had word through for race control that the race will begin with 5 minutes remaining in this warm-up, so they've been given an extra 5 minutes in this warm-up session for all the drivers to rejoin. I think that's happened now. Yes, it was Adam Gray. It's one of the GTs. That's a bit odd.
He's back in now.
Is that okay? But maybe the maybe the order's been a bit jumbled because now that gives me a different number of Hypercars and GT3s to what I counted earlier. So I've clearly counted it wrong on one of the times. But anyway, we won't worry about that too much.
Did you get above 10 and get confused?
I ran out of fingers.
You didn't work out to take your socks off then and count your toes?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I've had a bit of a disaster there. But anyway, we'll get that sorted when the race comes on, because it'll be a lot more easy to work out when we get there. So yes, that moment is coming up very, very shortly. It will be an hour-long race. Of course, 60 minutes here at Fuji. Very much the part of the season for this kind of thing. And we're pretty much ready to go racing. Still 3 rounds after this one, by the way, and a lot on the line in the respective championships. So yeah, looking forward to getting this race underway when we do, after a formation lap, of course. But before that, we'll have a little look at the grid for this race, and no surprises to see that Daniel Kirby will be on the front ahead of John Uyen. The first of the Hypercar AMs is in 3rd place. Michael Locke is ahead of Tom Lane, by the way, in 4th place. And then on row 3, it's Magnus Dahlgren and Timon Subic. 7th place for Wouter de Bruin. He's ahead of Jerry Chen in the 8th position. That's one of the Porsche 963s. And then rounding out the top 10, it's Louis Hesketh and Brian Hall. Hesketh, by the way, the second of the Hypercar AMs. Gilles Lalonde is in 11th, ahead of Wayne Hutchison, the championship leader in the Hypercar AMs. He's starting from 3rd in that category. Norm Graff and Eric Mounier round out the 7th row of the grid, with Philippe Emric and Jason Whited in the 16th position. Then it's Benjamin Portersheath and Joe Falls rounding out the 18 Hypercars, which is one less than I had earlier. But anyway, Jack Ely will be starting on the front in GT3 alongside championship rival Jamie Zalecki. That's Johnny Gutierrez and Brandon Gant, who will be on the 2nd row for GT3. Then the final of the GT3's pros, Matthew Marlowe ahead of Stuart Bards, the GT3 AM pole sitter. Matt Busse and Mike Busse are 2nd and 3rd, ahead of Alain Lafrancois and Josh Lepetri, who rounds out 27th and 28th. That's the 14th row overall. The top 30 is rounded out by Eugene Mazur and Peter Meyer. Mazur, of course, the championship leader in GT3 AM. Craig Pullen and Stephen Miller are on the row behind there, with the final set of drivers, Gilles Villeneuve, Tom Mountjoy and Guillaume Benck, the 35 drivers. And there is our other Hypercar, by the way. I said I was missing one in that rundown. There he is. Guillaume Benck will have to start from the back by the looks of things, or maybe he'll move forward on the formation lap. I'm not entirely sure. I think we're going to have Adam Gray join them from the back as well, maybe. I don't think he was in that rundown, but I think he will be joining in once this race gets underway. But certainly hope so, but not sure for the moment. So the drivers getting themselves ready, getting themselves onto the grid. Then we'll have a formation lap. We'll have this race underway, and Daniel Kirby will be in control of the field after our formation lap, of course. But it's a big grid once again. No surprises to see that it's Peugeot 1 and 2 on the pole position. Kirby and Uyen locking out the front row for this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not really surprised, to be fair. You can look at the 9X8. Look at that. It is stunning. Absolutely stunning. I love that car. It looks absolutely incredible as we're going to be off on the pace lap. Phil said he was playing D&D 30 odd years ago. Ria says, I'd be so excited to talk to you about it. Also trying to run a D&D campaign. See, you and me, you could play virtual D&D.
Don't know what that means.
Dungeons and Dragons. We can play Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't know. I'm not a... I'm not very up to date on game. Well, I suppose it's not a bit game. Up to date, is it? But
no, it's a board
it's
game.
A very old game. See, I just don't understand these things.
Oh,
but
God
anyway,
blimey! Help me out here, chat. Come on. I'm feeling older by the minute, Phil. I'm not gonna lie. I feel older by the minute. There we go.
I was just talking to Zach Sweeney about this. Maybe he understands.
Do you know what? Probably Zach will go, yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons. I'll be like, how do you know and not Ewan?
Well, I don't know. I've got other things to think about, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really.
Are you saying D&D's, but not in your remit, and it's not. It's below you. Is that what you're saying?
As I said earlier on, I'd never heard of it until 15 minutes ago. So
do you know what? I reckon it would do you well. You seem like a guy that would play D&D if you knew about it. Do you know what I mean? You sit down. It's a role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game. All right, sorry, Ria. It's not really a board game. I've been told off already. And it's a role-playing tabletop game, basically, and you go on a quest. There's a quest master who writes a quest out, and you go on quests to rescue, I don't know, it could be a princess under attack by a dragon, and you've got to go through different challenges all the way through, and you roll dice and stuff like that. See? But Ria has also said Zach seems like a D&D nerd, not going to lie. Well, you never know.
Well, yeah, well, maybe he is. I've never talked to him about it, surprisingly. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Don't know when he's next on JPB. Not this weekend. But anyway, we'll find out next time we see him. Just over an hour on the clock. Then we've been given a lot of time for this formation lap, haven't we? Really, but there's not long to go until we get this race underway. Now, Daniel Kirby is at the front here for the 60 minutes of Fuji. 4 rounds to go in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship here for 2023, and Kirby's going to make them wait just a little bit onto the front straight. Still hasn't gone just yet. He could cause a bit of a stack up bit further back if he leaves this a bit too long. John Hume will be eagerly waiting the throttle to be smashed here in a moment. Michael, look there as well. You can see them all ducking out in the background. Not sure whether to go or whether to wait, but Daniel Kirby certainly making the wait for quite some time on the front straight here. It's a really long wait. It's a really long front straight as well, though, isn't it, for the race at Fuji, for this circuit. So Kirby has to wait all the way until you get to the line and then can finally go. But John Ian's going to be very close to him and giving him a pretty hard time on the way in towards turn 1, which is normally a scene of a really big stack up on opening laps, but Daniel Kirby is not going to have such problems. He will lead in towards turn number 1. It will be side by side a little bit further back as the likes of Magnus Dahlgren actually goes backwards a little bit here. I think he's been overtaken by Valtteri de Bruyne and Timon Suvic there in the opening corner of the race, but field already pretty spread out. Actually, the field wasn't very closed up actually as they made their way over the line on that occasion. In the GT Freeze, Becky Ely gets off to a good start and will lead the field away here as well. That's a very good start for Stuart Barge, who's gotten away, but so has Daniel Kirby. What else did we expect? 1.4 seconds, the advantage over John Hume, and then Locke, who's still in the third place and holding on to the Hypercar lead. There's the end of the opening lap, and no surprises that Kirby's got the best lap time. That's obviously expected, given that he's led the opening lap of the race. And there's the AM leader. It's been a decent start for Hesketh, who's made up a place and is into 8th, but already the amount of cars between them and the gap that's already been created is fairly substantial at the front of Hypercar RAM.
Yeah, Wayne Hutchinson's just lost a place to Gilles Lalonde there as well. So Wayne Hutchinson is behind Gilles Lalonde, of course, an AM and a pro. Not going to be too worried about that, really. Hutchinson is more worried about Louis Hesketh up the road here. So for him, he's got to be able to keep trying to keep some of these cars behind if he can before he's going to slip into the clutches of Felipe Enrique, and really he needs them to pull him forward. I think the likes of Gilles Lalonde, the likes of Wayne Hutchinson, the likes of Norm Graf, who are very, very tight into that hard braking area, into that chicane there, Ewan, as well. It's very, very tough to get down the speed from that such high speed little bit that they are going on. Down in the GT3s, we've got Alain Lefrancois sitting in 28th overall, third in class at the moment, chasing down Mike Boos.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, good start for Barge. Then you've got Buse in second and third. Then Alain Lefrancois, as you can see in the Porsche. It's very brightly coloured and very helpfully coloured, if you ask us, because he's going to be challenging for the podium now, ahead of the, or just behind of the two Lamborghinis that you can see on your screen. It's nicer line on the way out of the chicane there as well, but the final sector not really made for overtaking very easily, although you can have a little bit of a look down the inside of one of these very long braking zones and very late apexes as well, of course, that you can make use of. Francois looking to the inside on the way into some of those corners, but not able to make it happen. Buse looking to just cover that ever so slightly as well. But it's all going to be about that run out the final corner. The home straight is very, very long indeed. And you've got to make sure that you've got a good punch out of there.
Yeah, you've got to look for that exit out of turn 14 here, and that is exactly what Francois is looking at. He's trying to close into Buse. They've just gone over the line. They've got about another 150 yards down to the corner. Francois not going to get through this time around. There's some interesting little battles happening through here in this further pack. Wayne Hutchinson is out in front. Ria, you need a new mixer. No, that was completely on me. I hit my mute on my stream deck. And was coughing, unfortunately, so I muted myself so you didn't really hear that, and then I forgot to unmute and I was talking, so that was all on me on that one. But yeah, nice little tiny battle down here at the beginning of the AMS. The leaders, as you can see, are fairly spread out at the moment. Ewan, the top, probably the top sort of 8 with Louis Heskev being the last one. They're fairly spread out. As you see, Heskev's got Brian Hall for company as he's coming down into turn 1. This is probably the closest battle out of the top 8 at the moment.
It's sketchy on the brakes there from Hesketh. Was all over the place for a moment there. It kept it under control by the end, and Hall has been dispatched with pretty quickly there. So up to 8th, or staying in 8th, I should say, for Hesketh really. But yeah, it is starting to spread out already. Less than 5 minutes into this one, and Daniel Kirby has 5 seconds on John Uyen, who's still under a bit of pressure from those just behind, but it's just cementing Kirby's place at the top of the standings and at the top of the tree in terms of the championship as well. There's the AM leader in the form of Michael Lock in the Porsche 963. Mustang sampling livery as well, looks very nice on that car actually, and he's growing a ever-increasing gap now to Hesketh behind. It's still a long way to go in these races, of course, and a lot of traffic to deal with as well, and that will have to be dealt with pretty soon because the leading Hypercars anyway will be catching the back end of the GT3s before they really know it, and before long that moment will come where there is pretty much traffic for the rest of the race for the top class in this race. But for now, they're very much battling amongst themselves in their single classes, like this one just outside the top 10 between Jerry Chen and Norm Graff, and side by side just in front of them as well. It's all going on in the midfield if the leaders are a bit spread apart.
Yeah, Gilles Lalonde, Wayne Hutchinson, of course, and a pro. Hutchinson's going to try and make that move down into turn 1. He's got the inside line as Hutchinson. He is going to make it through on Gilles Lalonde. There has been some people who's been taking little bits of off tracks. Jaime Zalecki, Gwilym Bank, Stephen Miller and Adam Gray and Josh Lepetri, by the looks of it, have not had great opening laps. They've guys have been struggling and unfortunately have gone off track. GT3s are a little bit more spread. Vic Healy's out in front by 4.5 seconds. Jaime Zalecki's got Brown and Gant half a second back from that one. So everybody else is near enough touching a second spread on their times there. But Jerry Chen here, and he is fighting away with Eric Monet at the moment.
Yeah, that's a bit further back in the Hypercars again. Eric Monet looking for a way through. Wow, that's a dive. Very late on the brakes from the driver of the Porsche, and I think he's got through. He has done. Well, that was a bit unexpected, but that's exactly the kind of thing you can expect to see down at turn 10 there. The big stop before that hairpin and a somewhat awkward chicane, you've got to say. You can make big use of it, though. It's a slight run downhill. You'll be reaching a pretty high speed as well, and Eric Monet making perfect use of that to take what is 13th place overall in the race away, and hopefully drive up towards some of the others in his class, next of which will be Norm Graff, of course. But that was a huge dive down at turn 10.
Oh yeah, definitely. He took the moment there, didn't he? He had the opportunity. Now what's Gilles Lalonde going to do? Is he going to get past the GT3 in 12th place at the moment? He's not. He's going to have to wait. Now this is where it all starts kicking off here. If we was to go and look at Dan Kirby on board, as you can see him start trying to go through, I believe that's one of the Boyces in their livery currently at the moment that he's trying to come through. I'm probably guessing that might actually be Matt Boyce. He's siphoned through Matt, and now he's got Stuart Barge up the road as well. So there is Stuart Barge. You can just see him in the corner of your picture. Now we'll see how Dan Kirby deals with it, because for Kirby he's still got Marlowe, Gutierrez, Gantz, Zelecki and Ely to go, but at the moment for Dan Kirby he's doing an absolutely stellar job. So well done to him for siphoning through, and he does clear the traffic in the right place. To be honest, if he just does this and the others struggle and don't catch the traffic in the right places, I think by the end of this first run of traffic cycles, Kirby could be 5-6 seconds ahead easily at the moment.
Well, before the traffic entirely, he was already 5 seconds in front, so that gap's actually been cut into slightly by Johnny, and of course the traffic does give and take, but there is an element of driver skill involved in it as well. Of course, you've got to pick your moments, pick your battles with this one, of course, as Kirby makes his way down the inside at turn 3. That was a good move to make. There was plenty of space to do it as well, so he'll be pleased about that and pleased with it, pleased to continue on by the looks of it. But for the moment, he is being caught by Johnny, and although that gap does extend slightly to over 4 seconds, I think he will have got caught up there to do with the long right-hander at 100R, and that would really slow you down in one of these hypercars where you're meant to be using the downforce. He's going to want to dive this Mercedes as well, but it's not going to happen, and he will lose time.
Yeah, he's too far back. He's too far back. Is Uyan. He needs to get inside as soon as possible as they're coming into turn 12. And then they're going to go around the right-hander of 13 and 14 here. So for Uyan, he's got to try and now maintain it. It's 4.3. Kirby seems to be managing this and catching them now in the right place. I think John Uyan's just getting onto the start-finish straight. Kirby's already down the line. He's already cleared these 2 GT3s. Now for John Uyan, he's got to make sure he can clear them by the end of the straight. He should, in hindsight, with the power difference between this hypercar and the GT3s, he should get both of these. But if he doesn't get it by the time they start dipping downhill, I think he's going to struggle to get past. Is he going to? You need to go, John. You need to go. Oh, nearly just managed to make it through in time there as well. So John Uyan does make it through here at the moment. So great job. But everybody else is trying to go through. And Eric Monet as well is battling it out further down. So let's see how this one works out.
Yeah, I think just exercising a bit more caution than we're encouraging him to, really. Which is fair enough. We're just getting overexcited, of course, and want him to catch Daniel Kirby, but it's a very long way away at the moment. 10 minutes down in the 60 minutes of Fuji, and Daniel Kirby still leads the way in Hypercar. Michael Lock is still very far out front in Hypercar AM, by the way, by nearly 15 seconds there already to Wayne Hutchison, who's now second. Hesketh has dropped all the way to 4th in the 444. Bekele is still leading in the GT3s with Stuart Barge leading in GT3 AM. So 3 of the 4 pole sitters have, well, I say that 4 of the 4 pole sitters have held on to early leads here, but that's not going to remain the same, you wouldn't imagine. There are going to be battles further back and further on in this race, but just don't know where they're going to come from for the moment. And here is one of those a bit further back. Eric Bournier trying to gain places, although he has been doing quite a lot of that already. He's already inside the top 10.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's done a great start to the race. I do love Never Ending Winkle Faces is actually his full name. He needs to charge like a ball, apparently. So, yeah, for John Uyan there as well. John Uyan's back out to 5 seconds, though, as well. That's the problem. As well as traffic, it took them all of, what, 5? I think we're on lap 5. So it wasn't horrendously amount of long time before they caught up to the GTs. And at the moment, the GTs have survived as such. Tom Mountjoy's been off, and Benjamin Porty Heath has also taken a trip off the side of the circuit, and Craig Pullen is side by side with Mike Booth at the moment as they go down into turn 1.
So the Buse's double podium looking to be disrupted, and it already has by the looks of things. Buse has already lost a place quite considerably to Alain Lafrancois there, and so looks like Craig Pullen's going to try and make this a little bit worse for them, and Buse has been pushed down yet another place. So that's down to 5th now for Mike Buse, who's the one who's lost out. Matt Buse is still doing absolutely fine for the moment, but don't really know the reasons for that. Now 13 seconds off the podium already, and that must have been a mistake or some contact for Buse, because you don't lose that amount of time that quickly on raw pace.
Yeah, I can't see. He had a very slow moment here. We can try and have a look at and see what he got up to for Mike Buse. Let's see now.
Try and get that replay. I know that James is going to have a hard time fiddling with this replay, because I've worked with R-Factor 2 replays in the past. So I'll just talk amongst myself while we're getting up to it. There's the contact. It was with one of the Hypercars, which I think there's no surprise really, but it's one of those situations where the GT3s are just having to hold it a bit tighter to the apex than the Hypercars are. You've got to remember that when you're in the faster class, that you've got more downforce as a Hypercar, and the GT3s can't quite keep as tight a lines as you can, and unfortunately they've made a bit of contact. Mike Buse is the one who paid the price for that in the end.
Oh, God blimey! Who was that in the Hypercar then? That wasn't Enrique. Was that Louis Hesketh? No, it was the one behind Hesketh. Was that Jason Whitehead there? Overtaking them 2 GTs was just insane. Mike Buse is trying to go back past Craig Pullen. He has made it through, but cool, blimey, Governor, there as well for Louis Hesketh. That could have been Jason Whitehead, sorry. That could have been very, very dangerous there, going from one side of the circuit to the other. He made a gap, he actually went for it, but cool, that could have been a different situation for him there.
Yeah, it certainly could have been. I understand wanting to stay in the slipstream for as long as possible, but you do have to be careful with things like that, getting too close. So that's a bit of a concern, to be honest. Might be back on the defensive again on the way down towards the left-hander just after 100 odd. Then they'll be making their way down the hill through 8 and 9. The 2 corners you really don't think about at all, even in the GT3s. It's turn 10 that really clouds your thoughts as you're on your way down there. Big braking zone, even with the ABS, important zone for the GT3s, and certainly don't want a Hypercar going off in front of you, as just happened there. One of the BMWs going a bit deep into the corner, and another example of the Hypercars not being quicker than the GT3s at every aspect of the racetrack, especially in these slower corners. The GT3s can actually put up a decent fight to the faster class.
Yeah, that was Benjamin Porteous Heath, I think. It was. He went spun round, and then I believe Adam Gray was responsible for that one. You can see here the Hypercar on the inside. Oh no, he just goes all on his own. He goes all on his own, does Benjamin Porteous Heath. So yeah, a bit of a shame for him really, but I believe he has DNF'd already.
Yeah, I think so. At the very least, he's gone back to the garage and will be getting himself ready to go back out again, if indeed he does. But we may well have our first retirement of the day. Don't believe we've actually had anyone else in the pit lane at all, have we?
No.
So far, unless I'm very much mistaken. Maybe Adam Gray has been, but he could just be off the back as a result of a spin or something. I think
you're
Benjamin Porteous Heath's the first one.
Yeah, hold on.
I think possibly that is the case for now. Adam Gray, well, what's he doing here?
Oh, that rejoin, bro. Hold on a minute. What did he get up to here first off? So we're going into turn 10. So he goes and completely misses it, right? And then this rejoin, like, there's cars coming there, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, got to be careful with stuff like that. Yeah, we'll go across the corner at that point. I don't know what the game would do to you, to be fair, if you did actually go across the corner there. Whether it would give you a penalty or something. But yeah, you've got to be careful with rejoining like that. He's continuing on, though, is Adam Gray. By the way, points only go down to the top 10 in these 60-minute races, so it won't pick up any points at the moment. However, if you are classified in these races, you do get a half point for being classified and finishing outside of the points. Can't tell you what percentage you do need to complete. I'll need to go and look at the rules, but
I think it's
yes,
75, dear sir.
75, okay.
75% they have to complete due to as well, because we were talking about it with Ross Smith actually, because of the fact that there was only 2 cars in the last race that we did, and basically he had to keep and do 75% of the race to be classified as the winner. So yeah, 75% they have got to complete. Benjamin Porteous Heath unfortunately is looking like he's out here, as well as we're looking at Gilles Lalonde, who's getting onto the back of Brian Hall.
Yeah, so battles continue in Hypercar. Lalonde looking for this place against Hull. Lalonde is currently 8th in the Hypercar, but 9th overall. But this is a fight for clash position. So what, 7th and 8th this battle is for in their class. Michael Lock's still ahead of them, by the way. But has slipped all the way to 7th now. In the overall standings. Don't know what's happened to him really. Maybe nothing has, but he's been overtaken fairly regularly in the recent past.
2 seconds.
He has had a problem in the first sector here, because it's about 10 seconds slower than it should have been. So he's had a problem on this very lap, by the looks of it. That's a battle just up in front of him,
There was contact.
by the way. Wow. That was big, a big bit of contact as well. I think it was involving
Dahlgren.
Magnus Dahlgren.
Yeah.
He was with one of the Acuras.
Is that
That's way too late on the brakes from Subic. Yeah, it is.
Subic in the Red Bull?
Yes, it is. So they would have been fighting for 4th place, those two. But Michael Lux comes steaming in, and he's absolutely clattered into the back of which one? Dahlgren, I think he clattered into, and just
Subic.
gets this all wrong. Well, I've got a 50% chance there, and I got it wrong.
Yeah,
just goes clattering into them, and well, if they were there, he would have missed the corner entirely, but instead he's taking one of them with him. That was not a good moment for him, as John Huyens into the pit lane a little bit early, inside 20 minutes in this race. A bit of a concern fuel-wise.
Yeah, I think they've got to. We did say in the challenges, fuel management was the key, of course, here as well, and also traffic management. You can see Brian Hall coming through. I think that was De Bruin being cut through. Magnus Dahlgren is behind De Bruin. Dahlgren does look a lot quicker at the moment. I'm not going to lie here, so I'm not entirely sure if how long De Bruin can hold him up for. I think that's going to be the question, and whether or not Dahlgren's going to make his way. He's not going to do it through this part of the section as they're coming through 6, running down into turn 10. He's got an opportunity at 10. If not, it'll be on the start-finish straight. So there you go.
It will. And he's too far back in towards turn 10 to get anywhere. So that's absolutely fine. Speculating a little bit in the YouTube chat about whether all the sliding that everyone's doing is down to temperatures at the moment. It just seems that there's no in between sometimes. That there is very warm or very not at this location, but seems to be one of the warmer ones here today. Just from the looks of it, I don't actually have the data in front of me, but just looks a bit warm to me. Although I could be wrong. Let's see if Magnus Dahlgren will get through there. The battle for 4th resumes. It doesn't involve Timon Subic this time, though. It's Valtteri De Bruin just in front of us here, and the Ferrari getting a wonderful slipstream here. Dahlgren has good straight line speed anyway, but not quite as good on the brakes, not able to go as deep in. He will keep a tighter line, though, and should have the place as a result. De Bruin possibly a little bit too late on the brakes there, really, and gifted that position over. He's still pretty close on the way in towards turn 3. Not close enough, though. He has to stay behind.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think he was late going into the brakes and trying to outbrake Dahlgren, and unfortunately he outbroke himself, which you know, you and I both know. Well, you drive more than me, so you should know more. Not a great idea here as well. We've got Peter Meyer battling away with Stephen Miller. Of course, Miller sitting 2nd in the championship standings behind Eugene Mazur. Missouri's in now 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th place in class at the moment as well, but Stephen Miller is going to be coming under attack from Peter Meyer in that Mercedes. So AMG GT3 chasing down Stephen Miller here, so this could be an interesting one as well. So there we go.
Yes, really love Peter Meyer's livery, by the way. It's a bit of a late 90s, early 2000s McLaren livery from the Formula One world. That's it's not quite got the right shade of reddy orange on it, but that's fine. It's a bit of a spin-off, and he is in a Mercedes as well, after all. So it's not even the same manufacturer. We'll forgive him for that. But he's looking for this 7th place right now. Is Peter Meyer, who himself is actually up in the standings. You mentioned about Mazur being in 5th. Peter Meyer's 3rd in the drivers' standings, 66 points behind Fuji Mazur at this stage, and needs to stay relatively close today to stay in championship contention. But Mazur's looking pretty safe in that spot in the championship, and is actually looking for 4th place. Craig Puller's falling into his clutches right now, and Mike Boost there as well, fighting for that 4th place. But they've all got a very big gap to the podium places, which right now seem relatively settled with the drivers who currently hold them.
Yeah, Matt has clearly had a better race than Mike. Mike's coming under attack, or he's trying to attack Eugene Mazur. He's got one of the hypercars tucked up behind him. That's Locke, I believe, who's just going to go through. So no, Locke's not going to go through. He's going to go round.
Oh no.
Too much brakes, would you say, on that one, and spun the back end?
Yeah. The brakes are very, very tricky on these cars, aren't they? Really, and they're quite rear biased. Well, they're not rear biased, but I don't know what the word is. But the rear brakes are quite strong, and you can find yourself in a lot of trouble very quickly if you're not very careful. And even when they're not on the brakes, it's a bit of a problem. Locke trying to force his car down an impossible gap there with Mike Buse, who's forced to go a little bit wide. He won't be very pleased about that, because it will ruin his run onto the home straight ever so slightly. By the way, ever since we saw John Uyen into the pit lane in Hypercar, we haven't really seen many more stops than that. So it seems for most of the drivers the fuel situation is a relatively calm one. Not sure whether Uyen was running out of fuel there, or whether he's just made an early strategic stop.
Yeah, I think it might be just a strategic stop. We're in 36 minutes to go, so I'll be expecting them in very shortly. I think Locke, yeah, you can't be doing that. I've got to be honest, not with a long straight coming up. You know what I mean? You can wait and hold your line and stay there. You didn't have to get your elbows out and try and force your nose up the inside of something that doesn't want your nose forced up in. You know, and I'm pretty sure Mike Boost did not want his nose forced up the rear bumper of his car at that point either. So I think Locke's problem is he's rushing everything at the moment as well. Don't forget, he started 3rd, he's now down in 6th. He's trying to rush the process of overtakes like we've got with Magnus Dahlgren and Timon Suvik battling away here. I think Dahlgren's going to go up the inside, and he does make it through, but for Locke, he's got to be more careful where he sticks the nose in there.
He certainly does, and we'll see now what he can do for the remainder of this race, because Wayne Hutchinson has made his pit stop now, his first pit stop anyway. We've had a number of others as well into the pit lane in Hypercar AM, so wait to see when Locke makes his first stop of the day. Magnus Dahlgren and Timon Suvik seemingly can't be separated here, really. Looks like Suvik is looking to get through on Dahlgren at the moment. Not sure whether this is a repass or a first-time pass for Suvik now, but I reckon it could be a repass. I think Dahlgren has recently gotten through here and is now on the podium places, but of course we've still yet to put John Uyen into this combination, so we're not entirely sure where they'll all shake out. I think they would end up fighting for 4th place, in all honesty. I think the Peugeot will be ahead of them.
Yeah, I think so too. This is a repass. Don't forget, Dahlgren, Suvik and Locke got involved in that incident. I believe Suvik then got through, then Dahlgren got back through, Suvik got back through, and then Dahlgren took it there as well. That's a back marker, I believe, who has just completely missed the apex, but I don't believe he's the only one. I think Jaime Zelecki has also just completely missed the apex as well of turn 10. It looking like turn 10 is causing Sam a little bit of a problem here. Timon Suvik just rushed that move past that Porsche as well, and now Dahlgren's opened up nearly about 1.6 second gap at the moment. Jerry Chen is trying to get onto the back of Eric Monet, and Norm Graf is trying to get onto the back of Wouter de Bruin. So we'll keep an eye on that Graf Wouter de Bruin battle, and I believe Matthew Marlowe is coming onto the back of Johnny Gutierrez here.
Yes, looks like he's on his way through. Gutierrez is going to do the best he can to try and hold this one off, but Marlowe's later on the brakes around the outside. If he can stay there, he'll have the inside at turn 3 when they eventually get there, but it's a long way round. First of all the hairpin, then the kink at turn 2 as well, and I think he's done just about enough to stay alongside in the Porsche, and with the inside line at turn 3 he will be through. So Gutierrez demoted a place, but when you find yourself on the outside for that left-hander, there's not a lot you can do anyway, so he drops back a place, and Matthew Marlowe is now on the podium for now. But Zalecki's already been in, if not is still into the pit lane actually right now, so that's still yet to sort itself out, because Zalecki was running second early on in the race.
Yeah, this hypercar is going to play a part here as well. It's going to force Gutierrez out wide, manages to come through, get the job done. Kirby's been into the pits and dropped only down to third. Fastest lap on the race for Dan Kirby, 1:25.394 is his best lap time at the moment here. This hypercar really needs to make his mind up, because even I'm unsure what he's going to do once more. I think he's waiting to the straight, but boy oh boy is he going about it in a very bizarre way. That's car number 3 there, I believe, in the hypercars as well, so he really needs to get on a little bit on that one. He seemed a little bit indecisive, which doesn't help there, as we can see the blue flag being waved. We won't even talk about blue flags on that one. But yeah, interesting seeing how the pit stop cycle is going to fan out here, Ewan. I think this could be an interesting thing.
Yeah, Daniel Kirby has been in now, and he's dropped to third for now. Tom Lane briefly took the lead there, but he's also in. Are we going to see anybody try and do this on a one-stop in Hypercar here? Because so far we still haven't had Brian Hall into the pit lane. Tom Lane is now in, of course. So John Ian is going to gain out of this as well. He's now net second place as a result of the pit stops. But there's Brian Hall. He's got about 7-8 seconds over Daniel Kirby. Now, I'm beginning to wonder whether Brian Hall is looking to stretch this one out for a one-stop race here today, as opposed to the 2 stops of the other drivers. He is in the lead right now. I think it's going to be difficult to overcall Kirby, even by making a one less stop, because arguably Hall has to go one further lap than this one that he's currently on.
Yeah, and I think the problem is he needs to clear this traffic earlier. He can't be doing that. Every single bit of time that he ends up losing to Kirby, and now he was 7.5 seconds, right? That's what you said, 7.3 I think it was. It's now only 3.1. That just shows you how fast Kirby is, and for Hall to make this work, as you say, he can't be hanging around clearing traffic. He's got to get on his bike a little bit here, but it doesn't look like he is going to. We've got Gilles Villeneuve off the side of the circuit, unfortunately, as well. It looks like he's just come out of the pits and caused himself a bit of drama. So unfortunately for Gilles Villeneuve, it's not gone swimmingly at the moment. But yeah, Dan Kirby now going to take the lead, because I believe he's going, Brian Hall's going into the pits.
So exactly on the halfway mark, pretty much, Brian Hall makes his way in, and Daniel Kirby will retake the lead here. As we've heard in the YouTube chat, Donnie Ian probably realised that he was never going to make the one stop anyway, so why not split it into 3 periods of thirds, if you like, in the race, instead of going quite a long way and then having a splash at the end or whatever. He's decided to just split it into thirds, still giving Daniel Kirby nearly 18 seconds worth of a lead. It's an absolutely huge lead for the championship leader, once again on his way to a possible victory. If he were to take this one, it would be a winner of the 5 of the last 6 races, but he just has still a lot of work to do, a lot of traffic, and some potential people to avoid as well, as we saw with that Porsche all out of shape, very nearly coming across the road and hitting him again.
Well, I would bet against him. I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't bet my house on Dan Kirby losing. In fact, I would quite happily bet it on the fact that he's going to win. I think barring any major dramas for Kirby and driving sensibly, he doesn't need to rush anything. He doesn't really need to be pushing overtakes in silly positions. That's ideal. Look at the amount of room that he gave that car in front, of course, that GT3. And now he's going to go again here once more. Wait till he gets on the straight, open it up, and away he goes. So yeah, great job from Dan Kirby there, well managed. Honestly, I think he's probably already you could probably safely say he's already won this. I think Norm Graff is here at the moment. He's chasing down Brian Hall. Of course, Brian Hall's just pitted. We think he might go one stop. That could be an interesting one to see if he can make that work, Ewan. I think that's going to be, yeah, on the borderline, I think, whether or not he can.
Yeah, very much on the borderline.
And that's Gilles Lalonde.
Oh, no.
Facing the wrong way.
Lalonde, the wrong way for him, unfortunately. He's back in 10th already, and that's 9th in the Hypercar, by the way. 10th overall. He gets going again, just in front of Philippe Emerick, actually, in the Acura there. He's one of the Hypercar AMs, so not really a battle between themselves. This is a replay of what happened. It's a bit of a stack up in front of him. I think it's Timon Suvic, isn't it? Who's just up in front of him there and had to stamp on the brakes very hard, and indeed too hard. He eventually went around at turn 10.
Yeah, I don't think he was kind of expecting Suvic to kind of do that. Not that Suvic did anything wrong. He just braked where he normally would, and unfortunately, I think for Gilles Lalonde there, he literally had nowhere to go. So yeah, it's a shame for Gilles Lalonde. We've got the first GT3 in, I believe, as well. It's just coming out of the pits. So the GT3 cycle is starting once more, and at the moment, Wouter de Bruin here is trying to get on to the back, I believe, of Tom Lane. So this could be an interesting one. I'll see how this materialises.
Yeah, Tom Lane made a relatively late stop there, but I don't think he's made it late enough to stretch this one out into a one-stop race here today. I think it's just going to be a late splash for him and a short final stop, but whether that's enough to see off De Bruin here, we'll have to wait and see. This is the only battle inside the top 5 now in any of the classes, actually. We've not got any going on in the other classes just for the moment. In the 2 GT3, every Hypercar has been in, by the way, it's worth mentioning. In the GT3s, we've only seen a few in so far. Brian Gant and Javi Zalecki have both been in from GT3 Pro, and Johnny Gutierrez is in right now. And in AM, the championship leader, Eugene Mazur, has been in. Peter Marr, Mike Booth have been in as well, of the top contenders in that category. So still waiting for the leaders, really, in both GT3 categories to come in yet, but they've still got plenty of time and plenty of fuel as well. They're not stretched for fuel today. We were a little bit worried about it at Road America for a brief period, but those worries quickly went away. This circuit seems to be even kinder on fuel than that, so we're absolutely fine this week in terms of making this on one stop for the GT3s, and it's even possible to attempt it in the Hypercars, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, well, that's only realistically done by Brian Hall. I think Brian Hall was the man that was the only man, wasn't he, who got it to half an hour. So for Brian Hall, I think he's probably the only man who could probably try. Michael Locke, unfortunately, has lost the lead. This is how much everything Locke has done has affected him right now, right? And I say this in the nicest possible way. Locke has not only lost the lead of the AMS, he lost it to Wayne Hutchinson. He's dropped 11th in the grid overall from being 3rd when he qualified, and that's all because of the rushing situation that we've seen. So yeah, not an ideal race. If Locke had come in, Ewan, and just calmly gone about his business and did little bits by little bits by little bits, he would be okay, but he's not, because of the rushing nature of everything he's tried to do, and that's what's caused him a problem. You know, winning in Road America last time out, and now look at what we're looking at. You know, he looks like a first timer behind the wheel at the moment because he is just making so many mistakes, and it's costed him. He's got Enrique not far off the back of him as well. So for Locke, Enrique, what? Hold on a minute there, son. You were very.
What's going on there?
He was very close to Stephen Miller. Whoa.
That's right.
Watch Miller and... Oh. Becky Healy missed her pit.
Oh, how on earth did that happen?
Watch.
Well, that's very... Okay, we'll have a look at the replay, but I can't quite understand how that's... Why did she do that? That's Craig Pullen off the road.
Yeah,
why did she do that?
I'm trying to go back far enough. I want to skip the replay. That's Joe Falls, unfortunately, going round as well. But I'm trying to get back to where Stephen Miller was slow. What? She brakes, look.
I guess she'd forgotten to... Is she going to run out of fuel on this lap? I certainly hope not, because that looked like a driver who'd entirely forgotten who was supposed to come into the pit lane on that lap. Now, where's Becky Ely, and how quickly is she going out there on the circuit? Looks okay, actually. So
I don't think the problem was Miller had that incident with Enrique, right? Trying to get past, and Enrique was on the inside. Miller was trying to get through. The problem is Miller didn't go through. He went into the pit lane, he slowed down, and unfortunately Ely was following him. But I don't know if she went round Miller to try and jump him to get into the pits and completely missed it. And, well, now watch, you should see her peel off. Yeah, there she goes. So she did manage to have enough, but I got a funny feeling that the plan was to get through on the last one. So, but yeah, I'm sure there'll be a conversation somewhere.
I don't know if she was trying to overtake Miller there, because that would be entirely illegal, and everyone knows that. So surely she wasn't doing that. I'd be very surprised. But I can't understand the panic that I'm totally at a loss, because I can't understand the panic that she had there. She looked like a driver who had said to themselves, I'm going in this lap, and I need to remember. And as she approached and got too late, she remembered, oh, heavens, I've got a pit. But clearly not, because she wasn't going to run out of fuel there.
It's just here.
Why on earth would you try and enter the pit lane like that if you weren't running out of fuel? I do not understand that at all. It does not make any sense to me at all, I'm afraid.
I don't know, but whatever it was has caused Becky Ely a moment of panic. She has managed to make it to the pits, which was great. But
we don't know that. Maybe it just caused other moment of panic. Maybe she was fine.
Well, maybe she might just say that she was going to follow Miller in and he was very slow. She went to go round him, which I think was what the plan was, but I just don't think it quite worked out. Kirby at the moment, the interesting thing about Kirby is he's coming up to lap Gilles Lalonde, right? Gilles Lalonde is 11th overall. Kirby's coming around to lap him now. He's got nearly 28-second gap over John Uyan, and this is the pace difference of Dan Kirby here. 128.825 for Kirby, 131.385 for Uyan. 3 seconds. 3 seconds over one lap John Uyan lost there. It just goes to show that Kirby is in a different postcode this week. He is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's no particular surprise, really. And speaking of surprise, I wouldn't be surprised if we see at least the top, maybe the top three are going to be the only ones on the lead lap by the end. I know it's not a very long lap compared to some of the circuits we've had this season, like Le Mans, for example. But even so, I think we're only going to have three on the lead lap by the end of the race. This is a great battle, by the way, for second in GT3. Gutierrez is still second. Rebecca Ely absolutely fine in the lead now, by the way. Gutierrez still second, and Brandon Gant, and then Matthew Marlowe in third and fourth. So a freeway battle for second place in GT3 right now, which is fantastic to see podium places being fought over here.
Yeah, it's nice to see that the GT3 pros have come back into the situation. You know, Brandon Gant there as well, and I believe that is actually Johnny Gutierrez. So this is actually second, third and fourth, battling it out for the podium within the GT3 pros. Becky Ely's out in front by 20 seconds at the moment, and is doing an absolutely stellar job. Gutierrez got it all wrong coming out the final corner, and Brandon Gant has gone through. So it's all going to be about what Matthew Marlowe can do here and whether or not he's going to be able to close up this gap.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the end of this one. Less than 20 minutes remaining now, by the way, in the 60 minutes of Fuji. Marlowe there, is it just the way that the I think it is. I thought he was right hand down slightly on the straight there, or whether I was just that's just a thing that you get generally. But anyway, he's still fourth. Watching Gutierrez in front now, who's beginning to slip back, and Brandon Gant, who possibly seems to be the quickest of the three. And it's fantastic to see him still using the Nissan, by the way. it's not a car you see very much of at all anymore in the world generally. But it's still fantastic to see it. One of the all-time great GT3 cars, in my personal opinion, which doesn't hold much weight. But anyway, I'd like to see it out here and running well in its second place at the moment in this race. Gant looks like he has more than enough as well to have the measure of the other two. As speaking of second place, Don Nguyen, it's second overall, goes past them, and he can't be far away from a pit stop actually, with just a third of this race remaining.
Yeah, I think he's going to be there or thereabouts. I was a little bit worried because as he went through Gant there, literally went through Gant, tried to go through Gant, Gant closed the door on him and Nguyen ended up mounting the curb and nearly going onto the grass. So from John Nguyen's point of view, I think that might have been a brief little moment. He is going into the pits now. This is gonna, where will Nguyen come out, and is everybody else in the next 7 minutes in the hypercars gonna have to pit? Time will tell, but it's where Magnus Dahlgren is. I think Dahlgren's going to go through. Where is Wouter de Bruin? Wouter de Bruin is just coming over the line, so it could be quite interesting here as Nguyen is stopped. I think de Bruin's going to get him, and maybe even Tom Lane as well. So for John Nguyen, it could be a net 6th place maybe after this pit stop.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but he might have a bit of overtaking to do late on here. Where's Brian Hall at the moment? Is 8th place overall, 7th in the hypercars. Is he going to get out ahead of Nguyen? Is that going to be a battle that we're going to see? I'm not entirely convinced. There's Wayne Hutchinson, by the way, in the Hypercar AM lead. He may well struggle to get in front of Nguyen here as well. He's still got most of the straight to do. And there we go. Nguyen's already on his way out. So Brian Hall's potential one-stop doesn't look to really be paying off at all at the moment, because he's not even ahead of Nguyen at the moment. Don't think it's going to result in a podium for Brian Hall. I think that's Daniel Kirby just behind, about to put a lap on him.
He is, yeah. So that means Kirby's lapped everybody up to 8th, just to let you know. And we've still got 16 minutes remaining, so a great job from him. Unfortunately, John Nguyen down in 7th at the moment, and he's got Dan Kirby coming up behind him. So there's Kirby in the background there. There's Nguyen currently in front of us, and he's trying to chase up to the... Oh! No. That's, somebody sliding off there as well, and this is all getting a little bit scrappy, I think, as they're coming down into 10 here. There's Kirby, there's Nguyen, so Nguyen could end up finding himself getting lapped very shortly.
Yes, possibly. Was that Dahlgren, was it, in the Ferrari behind? It's certainly one of the Ferraris.
No.
It's not Dahlgren, actually. One of the other ones. Magnus Dahlgren's on the other side of the circuit. Couldn't be further away. Could have been Jason Whitehead then in that case, or one of the others maybe. But yes, it was a strange moment. See a slide wide at 8 and 9. It's not really a corner, to be honest, in these cars. And there's Eric Mounier having a difficult time. It is difficult to be one of these GT3s at the moment, with the hypercars trying to fly past. I mean, you know, they do have the urgency here to get on with it, and they need to get on with it, and that's obviously understandable. But throughout large parts of some of these corners, the GT3s are actually quicker, especially the faster ones, and that's Gutierrez, who they've just overtaken there, who is of course one of the faster ones at the moment. So it's becoming difficult for everybody. The interaction in traffic is becoming tricky for everyone out here now.
Yeah, okay, so explain that one to the viewers then, Ewan, right? Because when we think of hypercars, we think of massive speed differences over the GT3s. So when you say the GT3s are faster than certain hypercars at certain corners, obviously the viewers at home are going to be sat there going, what are you talking about? Just give them an insight and let them know what you mean.
Well, effectively, especially as they get towards the end of the stint anyway, the hypercars seem to be, especially today, sliding around everywhere, but that can happen anywhere, and can happen in a single class series, so that's not really the key point with it. It's more about the downforce. The way that the hypercars generate their lap time is through aerodynamic downforce. The Peugeot on your screen right now is not a great example of it because it has no rear wing, but but it does have a lot of aerodynamic downforce. A lot of it's generated from under the car on the Peugeot, incidentally. But you can see with some of the others, like the Ferrari and there's one of the Porsches you can just see in front there of John Ewan at the moment. That's Wayne Hutchison in the Porsche 963. A lot of their downforce is created through the aero and the aerodynamic downforce that they get from that. So that's the higher speed corners. Effectively, the faster you go, the more your car sticks to the road, which is a bizarre feeling when you first drive one of these cars. The GT3s are entirely different. I know some of them have some spectacular rear wings and a lot of aerodynamic downforce and a lot of aero pieces on them, especially these days. However, they just don't generate lap time in the same way. A lot of it comes from mechanical grip. And you see, this is a prime example. The Acura has to pull very wide there. And you saw the way they were mid-corner there. You saw the speeds of the two cars mid-corner there. They were pretty identical. That wasn't a great example because the Acura was very keen on letting the three of them go without any trouble at all. But when you see one of those top GT3 drivers fighting for wins and they're trying to pass, and one of the lower hypercars is trying to pass them, especially mid-corner speed and sometimes coming off of the corner speed, the GT3s are often a bit quicker on the way out, down to the mechanical grip that they have compared to the hypercars, which don't have nearly as much. So it becomes a problem, especially at this end in the race when everyone's a bit tired, and especially the hypercars seem to be really struggling on their tyres today and sliding around quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't really want to look at this, but we're going to... I think Michael Lock has been doing Michael Lock things. Yes.
It's a bizarre spin. That curve must be more deadly than I thought. That's all he really did there. Just got onto that curve.
Powered on it, and I think that's unfortunately, not an ideal day, I think, for Michael Lock. I think even though he's setting second in the AMS, I don't think he's had the greatest day in the world. So for him, I think it's a little bit tough. Gilles Lalonde here, and currently he's trying to have a go once more. So for Gilles Lalonde, I believe that is Norm Graff in front of him. As well as you see Graff making that little bit of an error. Gilles Lalonde is basically in that Peugeot 9X8, Lalonde in the Cadillac. So there we go. And I'd like to point out Dan Kirby has lapped everybody up to Wayne Hutchinson, who is 5th overall currently at the moment. So great job from Dan Kirby. Pretty much lapped most of the field.
Almost there. In terms of
how far is he behind Hutchinson? Hutchinson,
I think
is on his bike.
As far as my time screen goes, he's already lapped Hutchison because John Ewan's in front of Hutchison now, so he has lapped everyone to third already as Kirby. But let's not forget he has to make his final stop yet as Daniel Kirby, so that's going to allow a few people to unlap themselves again, like Ewan, for example, who has made his second stop. But not many of the others have, so I think it is going to be 3 or 4 by the end of the day. Just depends whether Kirby can catch Timon Suvic now, and with a nearly 20-second gap up to him, I'm not sure whether he's quite going to get there. Suvic's not very far behind Tom Lane though, and this is a fight that should transpire for 4th place when this is all shaken out. Yeah,
there's Tom Lane at the bottom of the screen. There's Timon Suvic in that Red Bull liveried machine in that 90 car there as well, the Acura ARX. Of course, so let's see how this one works out for Timon Suvic. Apart from the one incident I can remember with Suvic, he hasn't really done a lot else wrong, I think. I think he's just kind of gone about his business, hasn't he?
I would argue that he didn't do a lot wrong in the incident either.
No, sorry. No, he didn't, to be honest. He got punted at the butt. But, he didn't do a lot wrong in that. But he hasn't really done a lot wrong all race and is now sitting in 3rd place.
Yeah, I think so, and a podium may well be on the cards. Yeah, will it be a fight for 3rd place? It could be, actually. It kind of depends where Brian Hall ends out, but given the way that he ended his first stint of the race, I think he's going to fall off dramatically by the end, so this could be for 3rd place in the end. John Ewan's certainly going to get ahead of both of these two, you would imagine, after the pit stops. They only hold 18-ish seconds over him right now, and still have a whole trip to make down pit lane and a little bit more fuel to put on board. And by the way, Tom Lane's first pit stop was slightly later than Suvic's, so there's not going to be much fuel to put on board for either of these two, but Lane is going to have a very slightly shorter stop than Suvic is, but they're both going to be very short stops.
Yeah. Be interesting just to see how close they come out to John Uyan. As I say, he's got 19. I've got him at about 19.7 seconds at the moment. I've got Wayne Hutchinson also in the pits as well. So Wayne Hutchinson is in the pit lane there. So Suvic and Lane, it can't be very far off. I'm not going to lie, because they're 8.5 minutes remaining. It's got to be very, very soon. Brian Hall possibly could get this one stop, you know, but it's going to be tough. I think there could be a surprise, I think, Ewan. That's where I'm probably going here as well, because 8 minutes remaining. The splash and dash has got to be very, very short and very, very quick. As you can see, Suvic just make his way past Lane there, so they've got enough fuel to keep going another lap. So it'll be how much further they can actually go, and depending on where Brian Hall and his one-stop strategy, which we think is on, we'll be able to get this done as well.
Yeah, we think he is. And by the way, it's going to be a stretch for him to make it, but I think he will at the end of this. Daniel Kirby's into the pit lane then with just less than 8 minutes remaining, and that will be for his final bit of fuel here. Timon Suvic will try and now get away from Tom Lane, but as I mentioned, I think he's got a longer stop coming up here, so it could be quite close between these two on the other side of a pit stop phase. Fight for third in Hypercar Alm is also going on. Further back between Joe Falls and Felipe Enrique at the moment, and Enrique has just gotten through there on Falls. They seem to be arguing over the place, to be perfectly honest, but they are settling it by the looks of it. It's another good day though for Wayne Hutchison in Hypercar Am. He's the championship leader, and he's extending that lead now over the likes of Enrique, who's going to lose about 10 points. He started the day, by the way, 19 points. Maths? I can't do this at the moment. What's that? 24 points. There we are. Got there. 24 points off the championship lead did Enrique, and now he's going to lose another 10 points of that to Hutchison. So he's getting this under more control, is Wayne Hutchison, with another win here in the hypercar category.
Yeah, he definitely is. Wayne Hutchinson, to be honest, he's another man that's just done a stellar job on track. We haven't really seen much of him. He's moved his way up. He's benefited from Locke's mistakes all the way through. Locke is in second at the moment, a long way back. So for Hutchinson himself, I think he's done a great job. He's should take the win in the Hypercar AMS. Magnus Dahlgren there, as we can see a car off the side of the circuit. That's Jason Whitehead. Unfortunately, he's not had a good race either. And this is Dahlgren just clearing Norm Graff here, but Graff's going into the pits for what should be his final stop, and then Magnus Dahlgren, I think, isn't going to be able to go a little bit longer. Dan Kirby's been in and come out, still in the lead with a 36-second gap.
Yep, still far out in front.
Yeah, miles. Absolutely
yes.
miles. So well done to him.
Yes, more than half a minute for the moment for Daniel Kirby. Further back, Magnus Dahlgren's still got a role to play here, hasn't he? He made a fairly early final stop, but I kind of forgot about him, to be honest, but he's probably in contention for that third place as well now. John Ian looks like he's going to back up his teammate and finish second, and Brian Hall at the moment still ahead of Dahlgren as well, but he should be overtaken pretty soon. Then there goes Dahlgren right round the outside. That wasn't much of an argument in the end, and Magnus Dahlgren does make his way through on the Acura there. So Brian Hall's one-stop strategy was nice to see, because it's something a little bit different, something we don't see very often, but I don't think it's been quite executed as well as he would have liked, and I don't think it's going to really result in him getting a podium from this, although he may have got a better result than he otherwise might have with this strategy. We'll just never know, but it's not going to be a podium, I don't think, for him.
Well, Suvic's in the pits, so John Uyan has just cleared Suvic. Dahlgren, I think, is going to be close to having a go. I think that Dahlgren's in the background on the right-hand side. You can see him just at the top picture there as he's on the right here. Suvik still coming down the pit lane. Dahlgren's obviously full paced. He's going to go through. Is Brian Hall going to go through as well on Timon Suvik? I believe it's going to be very, very close here, and I've got this funny feeling Suvik did lose that place to Brian Hall. Brian Hall jumped with the Bruin, and so Brian Hall's strategy's put him in 5th at the moment, which ain't too bad.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of defending towards the end, though. De Bruin, this is getting very congested for 3rd place at the moment. Dahlgren looks to have to hold it, though, and he might well just end up with it as well. Daniel Kirby will be leading, of course, and John Ian should be 2nd, but the battle for 3rd could be an interesting one. Brian Hall is looking to hold on for 5th right now, with De Bruin trying to overtake him. He's looking at every which way through 8 and 9 now, and on the way down towards the big braking zone at turn 10. Walter De Bruin won't want to waste any time, although he's going to have to, because he can't get through on Hall there. He'll have Suvik closing in as well. Got to be careful of contact through there between them all. And that's a lap car behind them, by the way, not looking to get involved in one of the Ferraris, but yeah, this is very close, and Hall looking to hang on to this top 5 that could turn into 4th place when Tom Lane pits, but this is ideal for Tom Lane, really. His 2 rivals being slowed up by Hall just a little bit on this lap.
Yeah, I've got, there's somebody, Mr. Reese says someone crashed into Suvik, so not entirely sure about that situation, but I think, got a funny feeling here, we might see a 3 wide going down into turn 1 of these hypercars. We've got Suvik tucked in behind, then we've got De Bruin and Brian Hall. Hall's not really on the defensive. I think De Bruin's going to go through as well. Suvik's also Brian Hall, big lock up, and unfortunately for Brian Hall, he's now down 2 places into 7th. One little simple mistake in the last corner did him, and unfortunately that was it. Dan Kirby, 2.5 minutes remaining here as well, as he's on his way round turn 6, I believe, before he gets down into turn 10. So I've got a funny feeling we should nearly have 1 and 1 more.
Yeah, it will be penultimate lap this time round, and then the final lap when he next crosses the line, I think, when he gets there. So Daniel Kirby looking to lap as many people as he possibly can, and he might well have another 4 in his sights here. Dahlgren's not too far ahead at the moment. Maybe there will only be 3 on the lead lap by the end, but it's going to be quite close, and maybe Kirby doesn't really want to be involved. There is Brian Hall just up in front. He almost looks like he's in a different class, doesn't it, Daniel Kirby at the moment? He is supremely quick, and a lot quicker than the rest once again. Looks like it's going to be another win for our championship leader. And Tom Lane looks like he might well even hang this out on a one-stop strategy. We've seen a couple of one-stops up and down the field, by the way. Eric Mounier, Jason Whitehead, Jerry Chen, along with Brian Hall as well. All have made one stop so far. Maybe they are going to continue on for one more. Tom Lane's got this one and one more as Daniel Kirby begins his final lap.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, Brian Hall here really doesn't need to be doing what he's doing. You're not fighting this man, Brian, I'm not going to lie. You were on a what did you do last time? 133.8, Kirby did a 129. So all you're really doing at the moment is holding him up. You can't really keep that car on track at the moment as well. So, you know, it might have been a bit better just to shift it, really. Suvik and Walter De Bruin here battling it out for 5th and 6th at the moment. But I'll keep an eye on Kirby and see where he is on track and hopefully catch him before he goes over the line. So there is Kirby on his way. He's into turn 10, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to take the checkered flag right after these guys start their final lap. I think they are just about going to stay on the lead lap and leave us with 6. Is Tom Lane going to come in on this time? I think he's carried on. And he's going for the one stop here as Tom Lane. Yeah, he has. So it's been a great strategy from him, and it looks like he might well be second place for him. But of course, it's all in arrears to Daniel Kirby, who's on his way to yet another victory in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. This time it's the 60 minutes of Fuji, and he now makes it 5 wins in the last 6 races. He's beginning to dominate this championship as Daniel Kirby, and it's another win for the Peugeot. He flashes his lights as he makes his way towards the line. The 60 minutes of Fuji, it goes to Daniel Kirby. in the Virtual World Sportscar Championship for 2023. Daniel Kirby wins once again, is second in a few weeks, and is fifth in the last 6 races, as the fight for 5th place will go on right to the line, because these two only came across the line just in front of our race winner. It's Suvic versus De Bruin for 5th place on the last lap.
Yeah, Suvic and De Bruin coming together in turn 1 there, making a little bit of contact, so we've got to be respectful of that. Wayne Hutchinson is going to come over the line. He's going to take the win in the Hypercar AMS. Well done. And Becky Ely going to take it in the GT3s here as well. Stuart Barge is going to come over the line, take it in the GT3 AMS, but it will be Becky Ely on the GT3 Pros. So a great job from that's not an ideal scenario on the final lap of the race.
No, not at all. Becky Ely then will take the championship lead, I think, as a result of this. It's going to be a third win in a row. She's taking victories at Monza and Road America, with Zalecki finishing. Well, are they going to be tied on points? No, they're not, because Zalecki was all the way down in 5th. So it is going to be a new championship leader in GT3 Pro, and it will be Becky Ely who will take it. 3rd win in a row, and now the championship lead to go with it as well. The championship lead stays with Daniel Kirby, by the way, in Hypercar, and stays with Wayne Hutchinson in Hypercar AM after they were race winners, by the way. And I don't believe the championship will change hands in GT3 AM. Eugene Mazur finishing ahead of his closest rivals, I think. Yes, Peter Meyer and Stephen Miller both finishing behind Mazur, despite the fact the championship leader only finishing in 4th place. The celebrations are ongoing down at the first corner. Some people particularly pleased with how their evening has gone, and Suvic will be one of those, because he did hold on to that 5th place right at the very end.
Yeah, he definitely did. He managed to hang on from Wouter De Bruin. I think there may have been a little bit of contact. I'm trying to see if there was anything there, because Wouter De Bruin was not far behind, but it was far enough. So there we go. A great job from all of these guys. And here are your session results, dear sir.
Yes, let's see. With no surprises here, of course. It's to see who's first, but yes, let's take a look at the results. Daniel Kirby winning ahead of Tom Lane on the one-stop strategy to finish 2nd, ahead of John Uyen in 3rd. Then Magnus Daugen and Timon Suvic rounding up the top 5. Welsh De Bruin and Brian Hall finished fairly close together in the end. Wayne Hutchinson was the Hypercar AM winner. Norm Graff and Jules Lalonde round out the top 10. In 11th place, it was. I've lost the session on my timer, so I'm going to have to wait for it to pop up on the screen, like everybody else. So apologies for that. But the session has, I would describe it as abruptly ended for us there. So we'll not get to see the results, unfortunately. It doesn't look like. Unless we can perform some kind of miracle. But
leave it with me. Leave it with me. I'm working on it. Me and miracles go hand in hand. Just give us 2 seconds. We will try and bring you up the rest of the results here.
Should really, I should screenshot them and just read them afterwards, shouldn't I? Really, but I wasn't.
You weren't quick enough.
Wasn't quick enough. Wasn't even thinking about it to be quick enough. Yeah. So that's my fault, really. Apologies for that. But there were your top 10 at least. No surprises at the top. Daniel Kirby, the winner. And in Hypercar AM, it was a
there you go. There's
win
the second
for Wayne
page.
Hudson. Here we go. Joey Chen finishing in 11th ahead of Michael Lock. He was still second in the AMS, despite everything that went on today. Eric Meunier and Jason Whitehead were in 13th and 14th. Ahead of Philippe Umric, who lost ground in the AM Championship. Louis Hesketh in 16th and Guillaume Benck. Then it was Becky Ely, the first of the GT3s. Joe Falls dropped back in Hypercar AM there. Further on, Brandon Gant finished 2nd in GT3. Johnny Gutierrez, Matthew Marlowe and James Zalecki round out the top 5 there, with Stuart Barge the winner in GT3 AM. Alain Lafrancois was 25th overall, ahead of Matt Buse. Those were the podium drivers in AM. Eugene Mazur extends his championship lead with that 4th place. Craig Pullen rounds out the top 5, with Peter Meyer and Stephen Miller losing more ground in 2nd and 3rd in the AM Championship. The final 6 drivers or so, some of whom never really got to the end of the race, unfortunately. Mike did, albeit quite a long way further back than when he qualified. Justin Petrie was 32nd overall ahead of Tom Mountjoy, then Gilles Villeneuve and Adam Gray, and actually only one retirement towards the end of that race, actually. Benjamin Porteous-Heath was the only one to retire, so that's a pretty good strike rate. 36 starting, 35 getting to the end.
Right.
Well,
okay, there we go. So carry on. Sorry, I'll shush.
Oh, no, it's all right. We'll get on with some interviews, shall we, and chat with some of the drivers. Starting with Becky Ely, who now joins us as GT3 winner. Welcome in, Becky. Good to have you with us once again for your third win in a row now, and it's safe to say this one had a bit of a bigger margin than the previous one of Road America, that's for sure. But how was this race overall? Because it was going well right from the very start. Even your qualifying lap was fairly comfortably ahead of the others.
Aloha. Yeah, I seem to be saying this each race, but I've practiced more than I've ever practiced before. And in all of my practice, this track was like riding a pig on ice. It was awful. And so I got used to it being awful. So come race day, and the track actually rubbered up to the point that it was like a normal track, I was flying.
I'm just shifting the image of someone trying to ride a pig on ice, but yeah, I take your point.
I'm trying to see what that looks like in my head. Hold on a minute. I'm just doing a stickman picture on a piece of paper with ice skates on the pig. Hold on a minute.
Yes, I take your point, but yeah, I might start using that analogy. That's quite good. Anyway, as through the course of the race, you obviously quite a long way ahead of the rest and nearly 30 seconds in front of the others. And as a result of all of the results today, I believe you've taken the championship lead as well now with just 3 rounds to go. How are you feeling about the rest of this championship as it kind of gets more intense as we go along? I mean, as you said there, it's requiring more and more work, I guess, to keep these results going, and it's going to require that in the final 3 rounds as well. How are you feeling about the situation with these final rounds coming up?
All I can do is my best, and anything can happen in motor racing. As Murray Walker said, anything happens, and it usually does. So yeah, there's a lot of good guys, and as I've said before, whoever wins is most likely going to deserve it, unless something really funky happens. But I doubt it will here. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be close. I like that there's a lot fighting out for the championship. There's still so many points available. There's over 100 still available. So there's still anyone from 5, 6 people could still take it. And that's going to be really interesting going into the final few rounds. I would be extremely surprised if it didn't go down to the final round.
Yes, I would say so as well. Just quickly as well, with 2 weeks to go until Indianapolis, how you feel about that circuit? Is it one you enjoy particularly or not?
As some people know, I am new to sim racing, so I have only ever really done Indianapolis on motorbike, and that was many years ago. So it's going to be basically learning a new track. I know vaguely where it turns left and right, but that's about it for the time being.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing you there in a couple of weeks' time for the final 60-minute race of the season. Becky, congratulations on the GT3 win, in this 60 minutes of Fuji, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Can I just give 2 shout-outs, please?
Of course.
One, first off, to George Angelidis, who often has provided the base setups for all of us NSXs, and then we work on adapting them. Thank you very much for that. His head was meant to be on the top of my car today, but I think there was problems with it, and as far as I'm aware, I ended up running my Le Mans car. So yeah, so that's a shame. There was meant to be a nice big George on my car today, and I'm sorry that you didn't all get to see that. Hopefully I'll have that working for next time. And an absolutely massive thank you to Yuki Takanashi, who you might remember from me almost putting him in the wall at the end of the last race, as he has been just the most immense help ever for this race, and is the whole reason why I had a lap gap on the other SGS cars. So thank you very much to him.
Absolutely, Beckham. Congratulations on the win, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well after the race. Let's chat to a couple of the other winners from tonight's race as well, shall we? Where should we go to next? We go for the overall winner of the day, Daniel Kirby, who was ahead of the rest by almost a minute towards the end. Daniel, welcome in. Good to have you with us as well. It's another win for you in this one as well. It's now 5 in the last 6 in this series now. Seem to be getting on very well with this car, and at Fuji as well, where there's obviously plenty of challenges, and there certainly were earlier on in the week in the other race here in Fuji, but stayed dry this time, and you stayed ahead of the rest quite comfortably as well. How did you find the race overall?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. After Thursday's race was like a typhoon, I was kind of glad to get some just clean dry running in today. And yeah, race went pretty well. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was it's good to see you out there as well. You've extended your lead in the championship now as well to towards 70-80 points at this stage as well, which is certainly good news. What about Indianapolis in a couple of weeks' time? How are you feeling about that circuit? Is it one you particularly enjoy or know particularly well?
No, not. I don't really know it that well. I may have done like one sim race on it before, but I think it should be pretty fun. Yeah, I remember I liked the track quite a bit. It was okay, so I think the racing should be pretty good too.
Well, let's hope so. We look forward to seeing you there in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, Daniel, congratulations on the overall win tonight, and thanks so much for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks very much, Daniel Kirby, winner of the 60 Minutes of Fuji in the Hypercar category. In Hypercar AM, it was Wayne Hutchison who took the win here, and we can chat to him now as well. Welcome in, Wayne. Good to have you with us as well. You didn't qualify on the pole here today, but you certainly were at the front by the very end. Just how much did that figure into your preparation in terms of, did you know you were going to qualify a little bit lower and then race your way through the field, or was that not particularly in the plan?
No, that was the plan all the way through. I had the car balanced such that I knew I probably wouldn't get pole, and I was really surprised how fast Micah was for setting the pole. He was like a second faster, but so I wasn't sure what his strategy was going to be. But my strategy right from the beginning was just to run one set of tires all the way through and just pit for fuel. So that seemed to work. I think the other guys were running softer tires and changing tires. So in the end, I was able to get to the end with a decent set of medium tires still in the car and first place.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, of course. Just in terms of that strategy, just how close was it, and how tempting was it maybe to try and do this race on just one stop? I know you mentioned you didn't change tyres at all. Was it close on fuel with regards to actually making it on one stop entirely, or was it always going to be two, in your opinion?
For me in the Porsche, it was always going to be two. I would have had to really save fuel. Even running on the leanest setting, I just couldn't quite do it. And there aren't really enough coasting corners here to save the fuel. So I just made from the beginning. I just went to full power, and knowing I would take two stops. And the second one was just 12 or 13 seconds, so it wasn't a big stop. And I was really surprised though at the end of it how far back Micah was. I thought for sure he would be breathing down my neck, but got lucky this time.
Well, absolutely. It's another win for you. Congratulations, Wen, on the Hypercar and victory tonight, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much, Wayne Hutchison, the winner in Hypercar AM at the 60 Minutes of Fuji tonight. And in GT3 AM, it was Stuart Barge who took the win, and he can join us now as well. Stuart, welcome in. Good to have you with us. A GT3 AM win for you here today. It was pretty close in qualifying and early on in the race as well, but you ended up taking the win at the end. Just tell us about your race from your perspective. Doesn't appear that we can No, I'm not sure he's there either. Well, if he is talking, we can't hear him.
We were
hello.
getting some bleed through. Yes, it was a pretty good race. I did. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, we can hear you now. As long as you can hear us as well, that's all good. Just
Yeah,
tell us
hello,
about your race
guys.
from your perspective.
I was fortunate. I did manage to get pole, and had a good start to the race, and things were looking pretty good. I had a decent lead, but the tires were feeling a little on the greasy side, so I elected to take tires at the pit, and that allowed Alon to get in front of me, and he came out about 18 seconds ahead of me, which I thought was just an insurmountable lead, but apparently he did not change tires, and I was able to slowly close it, and I believe I got a pass on him in the last lap.
Absolutely, and in terms of the season as a whole, this is your second win now, and the last one wasn't very long ago. So, do you think there's another one on the cards before the end of the season? With still 3 rounds to go.
Oh, I wouldn't even want to guess at that. I don't expect any wins that I get. These are just pleasant surprises.
Well, they certainly are very nice to see indeed. Stuart, congratulations on the win here tonight, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks a lot, guys. And also thanks a lot to Becky Ely and John Marr. We worked on setups so much over the week. So thanks a lot to those guys.
Thanks very much. Stuart Barrs, the winner of GT3 AM here tonight in the 60 minutes of Fuji. Well, that's just about going to do it for us here tonight in the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. It's just 3 rounds to go now. Next time out, it will be Indianapolis in a couple of weeks' time. So make sure you join us for that. We'll be live in the same time, in the same place. So make sure you come and join us wherever you found us here this evening. Thanks so much for coming and watching and chatting along with us as well, giving us information, telling us things that we don't know, which is considerable sometimes. But yes, thanks very much for everybody who has been tuned in here tonight. I hope to see you again in a couple of weeks' time, though. For now, though, we will leave you here from the 60 minutes of Fuji. One more 60-minute race coming up here, and it will be in 2 weeks' time, same place, here on the JPB YouTube channel. So make sure you join us for them. For now, though, we'll bid our farewells. I've been your Leary alongside James Parfitt here for this evening, and until we see you in 2 weeks' time, it's goodbye for now.